Since the release of Revival in 2017, much has been made about Eminem's music. Some say it doesn't have enough content, some say it's too lyrical, some say it's not modern enough. Whatever the case, it's all about opinion, and everyone has the right to their opinion, but with that being said, context matters. We live in a climate of cancel culture, and unfortunately for artists, if their music doesn't tick a certain amount of predetermined boxes, then in a critical review it will have points deducted. Rather than a review being about the music and respecting an artist enough to allow them to create music that is appealing to them and their fan base. If that music doesn't promote the agenda of the social justice issues of that month, then it must be bad according to some reviewers. Rather than looking at a rapper's entire body of work to compare and contrast, or respecting a rapper like Eminem who has longevity and has created a lane and amassed an adoring fan base, this is often overlooked. Rather, focus turns to see if a rapper ticks a certain amount of boxes that some critics from outside the culture consider relevant. Looking at Metacritic, a site which aggregates scores of music critics, it's easy to see that for the most part, Eminem's albums typically score between 6 and 7 out of 10, and that's fine because it's all based on opinion, but context is important. Out of 17 reviews for his last project, Music to be Murdered By, only 2 were included from rap-centred outlets, so a lot of reviews came from outside of the culture, with some marking him down for rapping too much, for rapping in different flows, and for rapping about his life. Criticising a rapper for rapping too much is only something you would hear from outside of hip hop. It would be like saying a pop star sings too much, completely irrelevant in an album review. There are plenty of things you can critique a rapper for, such as style, the concept of an album, playthrough value, but to have criticisms that an artist doesn't promote a certain agenda that's popular on Twitter probably shouldn't be considered when aggregating a consensus for an album's review. Looking at Music to be Murdered By, the critic score was 64, while the user review score was 85, a massive 21-point difference. While his first 2 albums, considered by many his best work, the Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem Show, have critic scores of 78 and 75 respectively, while the user review score for both is 90, which essentially is the difference between these albums being very good and classics. At the end of the day, art is subjective and opinion is personal, but when only 17 critic user scores are consulted and 15 of them are from outside of rap, and come up with points such as rapper is rapping too much, it sours the conversation. Perhaps reviews should be entirely based on the music and not based on the personal agenda of the person writing the review. But what do you think? Does Eminem get fair representation in critic reviews? Do you agree with the user scores or the critic scores? This has been Hip Hop Frequency. Thanks for listening.